There's Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by the Scottish heavyweight champion, Nick Campbell. Nick, how you doing, mate?
Daniel, good man. Thanks for having me. Good to be chatting to you.
No, anytime. Obviously, when we last spoke, you hadn't long linked up with Andy Lee. Great move for yourself, rising star in the coaching world and a former world champion in his own right. But we still haven't seen you back in the ring. What's the kind of background on that?
Yeah, listen, obviously had a couple of fights, three fights in the past 16 months, fell through on the week of or the day of the fight. And then I've been having a couple of issues with the board and my license, which I've finally got all squared off now. So full steam ahead, fighting on October the 13th, putting the last 16 months behind me. So, aye, but a lot of downs, few ups, but fingers crossed, everything's all squared off, all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. So, aye, everything's ready to go.
How frustrating has that become at times? Have you considered walking away? Because you've got other things you can do. It's not like you need boxing in a financial sense necessarily.
Uh, ah, listen, I'm a very determined individual. When I set my mind to something, I like to see it through to the end. One of the first things, Andy said to me when we kind of discussed linking up and working together was, I'll take you as far as I think you can go. So obviously we've not had a fight yet. So we've not even done the first step in the road yet. But yeah, so that's my kind of mindset from here. My goal is to go as far as I can possibly go. And when somebody like Andy Lee turns around and says that do you, lad, then I can, I think I can make peace with that. Somebody like that telling me. So let's just see where it goes.
Is there much you can tell us about the issues with the board?
Listen, not too much, but I think a lot of guys are going through the same sort of things. I have been through the same sort of things as me. Not, from talking to friends, other people from talking to boxers who've had issues. So the board are just trying to, I suppose, protect the boxers and protect themselves in the future. So they've got to, be careful with a lot of medical things, which can be frustrating at times when it turns out that, you get the all clear in the end and there was nothing really to worry about. But it's a good thing that they're looking out for you. So it's just one of them.
How much of the last 16 months would you say you spent in the gym, predominantly working with Andy?
So a good chunk of that, a good chunk of that over in Ireland with him in Camp Joe. Since kind of I've been, in Jersey quite a bit the last few months and over a lot of this year and back and forward and different things. But I speak to Andy most weeks, just touch base, even if it's just a touch base to let him know how I'm doing. Listen, I've been a professional sportsman for a long time, so I don't miss training. I don't eat bad, keep myself fit. I do all the things I'm supposed to be doing. So I don't need to be in a camp environment 24/7 to do the right things. But yeah, we keep in contact frequently. We're planning on, I'm obviously sparring Daniel just now, but linking up after this to put the final touches ahead of October 13th. So we're in contact. We're always touching base.
What would you say are the main things that have changed in your style or your strengths since linking up with Andy over the last, all that time in the gym you've had while not fighting?
Yeah, boxing to my attributes, boxing to my strengths, doing the good things well, or the simple things well. That's kind of the cornerstone for me. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel or do anything crazy. It's about, I'm a 6'7", 18.5 stone man. It's about using those attributes effectively. And when you do it well, you can be a handful for anybody out
What about the power side? I mean, all heavyweights
there.
carry a degree of power anyway, but Andy was a noted puncher back in his day. He'd probably still knock a few people out now if the occasion ever called for it. Let's hope it doesn't. What have you been working at all on that? Is that something you've seen change?
I think, just, yeah, I suppose we have. It's one thing about the way Andy coaches is it's not, this is how I train people, and you mold to that. Obviously, he's got elements of his training which are across the board, but he looks at who it is individually and tries to tailor those things to them, if that makes sense. So it's not like a set in stone, it's flexible, but obviously some things aren't. But it's just about working towards, like I said, the attributes you have. And yeah, definitely Andy was a massive puncher. So a little bit of that can rub off on me, happy days.
And Joe Parker is obviously on a really good run, but then we haven't seen him in a while since the last victory. Have you been disappointed from your point of view because it means you haven't got to share those rounds with him? You haven't got to be in camp with him recently?
Yeah, listen, from a selfish point of view, of course, but mainly for Joe, he had a real good run, real good momentum, which he still has. I think it's been a frustrating time for him. He's put a couple of things out there saying he doesn't know when he's fighting or who he's fighting or when it's going to be. So it's a pretty frustrating time for him. And I think hopefully he's going to have that over the line in the next couple of weeks and have it set in stone and know what he's doing. So yeah, it's frustrating for me personally, more frustrating for me as Joe's friend, but he's not out there, preparing. And yeah, but listen, those fights for those guys at that end of the scale can be pretty complicated things. So I'm sure it'll all get squared up in the next couple of weeks.
And talking of those camps, Andy Lee is obviously an assistant trainer for Tyson Fury as well. That rematch between Fury and Usyk takes place in December. Is there any chance of you being involved in that camp? Obviously, you're not a direct mimic for Usyk.
Nah, probably not. Listen, Tyson's got a lot of close-knit group of people that he's working with. Well, the first fight was probably the fight of the century so far, so the next one's going to be even bigger again. I think it's just keeping it really tight and close. And yeah, listen, I've got to share a little bit of time with Tyson camp for a few of his fights previous to that, and I'm just lucky that I got to be in there and experience it. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not hoping to get definitely not a southpaw, so I kind of help him on the spot in front of him.
Bit taller than Usyk as well.
Just a little bit.
I should ask you as well, because we haven't caught up since this all broke before, but there was a bit of criticism levelled at Tysons Corner after the first Usyk fight. Not directly at Andy, but he was in the corner. What did you make of that criticism? And, did you feel kind of, I don't know, defensive on Andy's behalf?
Do you know, you probably not there. I'm not going to give you the answer that you want here, but I don't really pay attention to any of it. Tyson was the lineal heavyweight champion, undefeated, fighting an incredible boxer in Usyk. Yeah, maybe his corner could have been a bit more streamlined and Sugar could have been leading. Listen, I don't know. I wasn't there. Like, one thing I will say is whatever Andy was inputting, him and Sugar have worked really closely together in the past and they're a great team. So I don't think there would have been any issue in what Andy was feeding in from the corner. And he knows the score, so he knows when to talk and when not to talk, especially in that sort of environment. So it's just all noise, isn't it? It's just people looking for excuses on why whatever happened. But listen, Tyson's a great fighter. Sugar's a great coach. And I'm sure whatever went wrong in the corner the first time round, we'll get right this next time.
Now, someone you do have a bit more in common with than Usyk is Anthony Joshua. I imagine that's part of the reason why you've been drafted in to the Daniel Dubois camp for the big fight next week. How did it come about? Who contacted who and how happy were you to be involved?
Yeah, so I worked with Daniel for his last fight with Hergovic. I was inspiring him then. Built a good relationship with the guys in his camp, Don Charles, Ian. So just basically when this fight came round, Don gave me a call and said, "Look, big man, I'd like to get you involved in the camp if we can." And obviously, I'm probably more than happy to be involved.
And what sort of rounds would you say you've done with him so far?
What do you mean in terms
Like
of
how
numbers?
many? Sorry.
Yeah, probably over 20 rounds roughly for this. Well over 20 rounds. So there's normally a couple of different sparring partners, and depending on what Don's looking for that day, depends on how many rounds you get. But a minimum of 3 every session. So I've been getting good work, and it's hard graft sparring down here.
I can
So
imagine.
it's been good. It's been a good experience, and like I say, Don, Eddie, Ian, all the lads, Tony, Kieran, they're all great lads. Everybody that's involved in it, the pub gym. So it's been a pleasure to get down here and work with Daniel and get helped out from the team. So I've really enjoyed it.
Now, before we talk about Daniel more specifically, what impact do you think the sparring's had on you? Have you been able to measure your own progress, especially as you were in the last camp?
Definitely, definitely. I think obviously enough comparing Daniel from the last camp as well. He's obviously up to his game. This is the biggest fight in his life, so you can feel that when you're in there sparring. But no, definitely, definitely feel that I've improved, and it's tough, hard sparring, and you've got to be on switched on, or you're fair game. So it's a challenge every time you step in the ring for the rounds, but I've definitely learned, I've definitely improved, and I feel as if I'm asking him questions, pushing him, and helping him prepare for the fight, which is the most important thing. I don't like this whole sparring partner mentality where you're just there to do the rounds, get through it, whatever. I'm here to try and work and improve myself, and in turn that obviously helps whoever's preparing for the fight because you're pushing them harder. So that's my kind of mentality with the whole thing.
Now, we know that Daniel's not a big talker, either on or off camera, but have you been able to glean an idea of his approach, his mindset heading into this, as you said, the biggest fight of his career?
Smash him up. That's his kind of. I don't think it's a great secret. You look at his record. I think what is he? 22 wins, 21 knockouts or something. I don't know. He's there to wipe you out. He's not looking to do anything else. He can box as well. He's got a great jab, good fundamentals. When you watch him on the pads with Kieran Farrell, he's got every shot in the book. But I think his mindset is to seek and destroy.
Good stuff. And you sparred Joshua in the past?
Never
Never.
sparred Anthony. Never sparred Anthony. No, obviously quite a few lads that have, and I've met the big man and stuff like that, but never had the honour this year in the ring with him.
How do you, and I know it's hard because you're in camp with Daniel, so he's not going to be completely unbiased, but how do you kind of weigh up this fight? How do you kind of sum it up?
I've done another interview, and it's funny because I was chatting to Don about it, and I was saying you've got to be impartial. Obviously, you're always going to be a little bit biased. I'm helping the guy prepare for the fight, so I want him to win. It's natural, it's human nature, I suppose, if you've got a little link to it. And it's funny, I was chatting to a few of my mates, and they were saying, we all want him to win because you're helping him.
Yeah.
So, it's silly, innit? I suppose, may the best man win, but I'm obviously backing Daniel for it. And yeah, listen, I think he's got a good chance. I think he's got a really good chance. He's a massive puncher. He's fit. He's coming off the back of two really good wins. His last two opponents, I'd say, were a lot better. Or his last three opponents, I know he beat off Usyk, but his last three opponents are of a higher caliber than Anthony's last four. And obviously, styles make fights. No two people are going to fight the same fight, whatever. But I think he's got good momentum. I think Anthony knows how hard a fight he's in for. I think he knows how tough Daniel is, how big a puncher he is. And I don't think he underestimates him. So it's a real 50-50. It's a pick and fight, isn't it? But like I say, I'm hoping that Daniel can get the job done. And I think whoever wins, it's going to be a stoppage. So hoping for Daniel to get the job done down the back end of the fight.
Now, I just want to ask you about one other heavyweight fight, probably a bit closer to the level that you're going to be aspiring to over the next year or two. And that's the British title rematch between Fabio Wardley and Fraser Clark. Absolute humdinger first time round. What do you make in terms of the rematch? Do you think it will be a similar type of fight, or do you think they'll both be trying to box a little bit?
I think out the two, I'd say Fraser is the better boxer. Fabio's a massive puncher, and you've seen that in the first fight. But I think I'd probably go with Fraser for this one, given the fact that he came through the first one. He knows now what to expect from Fabio. He knows what style of fighter he is. Not that he didn't know that already, but when you've been in the ring and share ground with somebody, you kind of get a gauge of that. He knows the power that he possesses. So I think for Fraser, it's about going and drilling down what he needs to do. And I think, yeah, I think it'll be a more polished performance. And I could see Fraser getting the job done. Like I say, I think he's the better boxer of the two. So I'm confident he's going to go in there and get the job done. He was actually inspiring Daniel a couple of weeks ago.
Mm.
And obviously I was in training as well, but he looked good. And everybody spoke very highly of the rounds that he gave Daniel. So
We famously told us when they sparred back in GB, Daniel would put him on his arse, I think was how he put it. So I'm hoping that didn't happen again. But yeah, I think they both.
No. Listen, it was a fantastic spar. But listen, heavyweight boxing. See anybody that tells you they've never been hurt, or they've never been dropped, they've never been maybe not. You take fair enough. You've never been dropped. Anybody tells you they've never been hurt, never had wobbly legs, is talking. Yeah.
On that note, before we move on, who's hit you the hardest in sparring?
No, it's a subjective question. Probably Daniel, but just to caveat that, Daniel's attitude is, I'm going to wipe you out. So he's actively trying to wipe you out in sparring. I don't mean that like in a bad way.
Yeah.
Like, that's just his mentality. Lots of the other top guys that have been in the squad, they're working on something, they're trying to improve something, they've got a game plan that they're sticking to. So they're maybe not necessarily trying to knock you out. Daniel is trying to hurt you. And that's just his mindset. And that's cool. Do you know what I mean? He's at the top level of the game. He's fighting a dangerous guy. And that's the way you need to be. His last two fights, Hergovic and this one, Joshua, both guys are serious operators, and both guys will put you out if you're not on the money. So I understand why that's his mentality, and I respect it.
And just before I let you go, we haven't seen a Scotsman even challenge for the British heavyweight title since I think Gary Cornish against Joshua.
Sam Sexton.
Yeah.
Oh,
no.
he did. He fought Josh. He fought Sam Sexton as well for it.
Okay, so yeah, but he was the last one quite some time ago.
Yeah,
How much does it mean to you not only to challenge for it, but to win it?
Oh, listen, that would be the pinnacle of my career if I could achieve that. It's something that nobody's ever done before. It would mean everything to me. But listen, I've said that from the start. What's your aspirations? What's your thing? I'm trying to live in the now, not the what could be. So. Listen, I'm getting in there and I'm holding my own with the likes of Daniel Dubois. I've done rounds with Tysons, Joe, Mark Bacoli, I get Caballero. So if I can work with these guys, I can keep pushing and I can develop and I can fight. I can be in tough fights. So it's just about being in the now, working, progressing. And if that opportunity ever arises, obviously take it with both hands. Try and become the first Scotsman to ever do it. But it's about being present in the moment and not getting too far ahead of yourself.
Good stuff. The immediate future is, of course, the comeback in October. We're all looking forward to seeing that. Get over the line this time. Touch wood.
Listen, I've had Scott Murray at the Excelsior Sporting Club's backed me and supported me this whole last kind of 8 months trying to get me on shows. And he's got me a fight on the 13th and he's got me a fight on the 28th of November. So big shout out to him, massive respect to him for putting his faith in me and wanting to get my name out there and try and progress my career. So I'm a lucky guy that I can get these opportunities. I've got people who are wanting to help and support me. Obviously, Andy helping and supporting me. I'm lucky, man.
Great stuff. Mate, really look forward to seeing you back in action. And yeah, let's catch up again maybe after the fight.
Danny, pleasure. Just give me a shout. Always happy to jump on you.
Lovely. Take care, mate. Speak soon.